guys, it's Melissa here from Little Kosher Lunch, and thank you for joining me. I wanted to talk to you about a vegetable that I love, since I do that on the blog sometimes. Vegetables don't always get a lot of love, and maybe with my encouragement, you might want to try something new. It's the fall now, and I have lost my mind over mushrooms. I know some of you are not mushroom people, but please stick with me. This is real life, so this is a leftovers episode since I already did the cooking, but I have lots of footage that I'm going to share with you about how I did my mushrooms, and this is sort of a lesson in how I do vegetables generally, so you can substitute something else in if you like. But here are my mushrooms. I went to Costco and they're selling this fall. They do those really huge seasonal gorgeous mushrooms. I bought for my daughter's birthday, because she's 2 years old and she asks for mushrooms still. I bought 2 giant boxes of chanterelle mushrooms. They're bright orange and trumpet-like and so beautiful. Those were like $11 or $12 per box, so it was a big splurge. And then 1 baby portobello box of mushrooms, also generously sized, but under $10 for a huge box. And this is what's left. We have been eating on mushrooms all week. I bought these mushrooms because we were entertaining and I wanted to do some vegetarian sandwiches for guests who were coming. I wanted to quickly tell you about how I cook my vegetables. I like to get my cast iron skillet very hot. Let me show it to you. This is my very old seasoned cast iron skillet. It's nice and big. I won't lie, when I cook mushrooms, it takes me a few batches because I like to get them all in contact with my skillet, but I heat it up very, very hot. I cover the bottom in a neutral oil like grapeseed oil, and then I crush a few nice cloves of garlic and I throw them in the oil and I let them give off their flavor and get a little bit browned. Once that's going, I have my mushrooms wiped down, sliced, and ready, and I do a nice layer of those mushrooms in the bottom of my pan. That pan is so hot, so they're like singing and sizzling the moment they hit it, and I leave them alone for a little while to get that really caramelized, delicious, almost crispy bottom side before I start turning them. And so by the time I'm done, they're no longer the beautiful color that they were when we bought them, but they have great texture. They're like unctuous and meaty, like a roast of meat would be. So they really do a lot of duty in your kitchen and in your lunchbox. With that, I wanted to tell you what I combine things with when I'm cooking a vegetable like this. And bear in mind, this could be any vegetable. So I do green beans this way, I do spinach this way for a very short period of time. I do broccoli, squash, celery root, or something more dense, and then I steam it briefly. So this hot cast iron skillet plus garlic and oil is like the way I do most of my vegetables. Over here in the big yellow pot, I'll bring it over. Today I made like a 4-ingredient lentil soup. So there it is. It's a little funny in this light, but it's just stock, lentils, a bay leaf, and carrots, because that's all I had. And then it's a very simple soup, very delicious because my stock is homemade. Then what we did for dinner is I just ladled on top of it these rewarmed mushrooms, and it made the soup that was very simple, like very glamorous suddenly. I do love these mushrooms because they're more flavorful than the white button mushrooms, but white button mushrooms can be delicious too if you cook them nicely and they're not soggy and floppy and rubbery. These are so versatile, so they could go on top of your lentil soup or another soup. They could go with like a very multifaceted vegetarian meal with lots of different vegetable dishes. They're very meaty and satisfying. They can go on top of pasta, on a sandwich, which I did earlier in the week. I did toast with hummus or toast with an eggplant spread and a little bit of arugula or green. You can do a dairy lunch where you spread goat cheese, mushrooms, and arugula. We did that for our tea party in little finger sandwiches. Or you could just do straight up cream cheese. There's so many different ways that you can just incorporate a mushroom. You could do a scrambled egg dish or an omelet with your mushrooms, and that would be super satisfying. I did also want to address Parve lunches or non-meat, non-dairy foods that I stock in my kitchen. For me, having deconstructed dishes like a naked pasta with oil and garlic and then a separate vegetable. Being able to have the separate building blocks is really helpful in my life because different people are picky and want some of one thing and not the other thing. So I tend to keep these items separate, and I tend to keep a lot of variety on hand so that I can quickly put together a lunch or a dinner or whatever it is. So some other ideas are cut up vegetables. These are leftover from the weekend. You can pair it with these neutral dips. My daughter happens to love ranch, which would be dairy, but these others would work for you non-dairy folks. I have tons of eggs all the time, so I have these hard boiled and ready to make into egg salad. If you like tuna salad or salmon salad, I have that made up for this week, so that's great too. Other building blocks that can go with either a milk lunch or a meat lunch. I have these little petite toasts. These are cute leftovers from our tea party, and you can find any crostini or just slice up a baguette like I do sometimes. And I have things like sun butter, and this is really special. This is a homemade jelly that I made with my daughters from our crabapple tree. So even though sun butter and jelly is sort of plain, it's more exciting when you put it on a little miniature toast sandwich, and if it's a special sort of jelly that someone loves. In terms of making ordinary things special, and if you're doing Parve lunches, a special noodle like these alphabets and these rigatoni are also especially beautiful and kind of look like beads for a necklace. So I stock things like this in my pantry so that I have interchangeable building blocks to go with any kind of lunch or dinner that I'm making, kosher style or for a vegan, setting aside the fish and the eggs. I just try to have all kinds of different separate parts that can go together. I hope this has been helpful for you. I know some of you are looking for non-dairy options, and I hope these help. I hope you'll give mushrooms a chance, and especially here in California, we have almost no seasons, so eating a beautiful fall mushroom like this is like having a season on a plate. I love them. I'm sure you can tell.